Hi there YouTubers, this is another video from your friendly neighborhood reviewer Evelyn. Today we're going to be reviewing episode 13 of the Korean drama series Moving. Everybody by now should already know that this series is in Disney Plus. It's a kind of like superhero series with a bit of Stranger Things elements and a bit of Heroes elements to it. If you want to see an explanation about episode 1 and 2, see the thumbnail here, I have on my playlist. Now, with episode 12, to cut the long story short, we have finally the story of Kim Bon-seok's mom and the dad of Do-shik. What happened to them, like the consequences of what Kim Do-shik did, the guy that could fly, was essentially went and disbanded the whole kind of like secret organization that there was, and their main boss got demoted. So episode 13, we get the emphasis on the character of Jang Ju Won. He's the indestructible man. We have the sweet love story of how he met the mother of Hae-soo. Like, both of them have the powers of invulnerability that no matter what they do to him and his daughter in this case, they can regenerate. So we get the aftermath in Jang Ju Won's story, in which he has to settle for an office job, and he's now happily married with his wife of Ji-hee. Now both of them, the interesting part about this couple is Jang Ju Won, he's a gangster, but then again we see he has such a soft nature personality. We can see he's basically a little boy lost with these monstrous powers that can make him indestructible, because we do get the backstory Jang Ju Won of him having to fight 100 men, and those shots of how many ways you can die basically was that episode. So episode 13 is him settling into an office life as a civil servant, and he's happily married with his wife of Ji-hee, and he's trying to get used to working as a normal day person, trying to adapt to using computers, the technology that goes about. And throughout the series, throughout the episode, we see a montage of this mundane life. There's a sweet scene, and when he gets off from the bus, he loses his bag yet again, and his wife's there to greet him, and he tells his wife his complaints that he feels like that he's useless to the world, he provides no value. But the best thing about the wife is he gives support to her husband. And because there's the other thing, we know, like, let's not beat around the bush. The wife was an escort in that time, and that's how she met Jang Ju Won. So they both understood each other's circumstances, and they came to the conclusion that they did these certain things for certain reasons, but they can be together, and that's the only thing that they need. So some time passes by, and Jang Ju Won initially was going to resign from the company because his wife, as supportive of ever, goes and says, whatever you do, it doesn't matter, just do what you want. So he's about to do that, but then he asks a colleague who he sits next to, which nobody is hardly talking in that office, that if he was to apply for an extension on the apartment that they're living in, that comes with the job as a civil servant, does he need to remain a position as a civil servant? When that conversation happened, I was thinking, like, very naive thinking, of course, like, if you quit as a civil servant, you won't get the benefits of having a place to stay and accommodation. So he's left there having to tough it out. Then the old boss of Min Yoo-gun, he climbs back into the ranks again. Like, he wants to put back together the black team, or the special ops team that Kim Do-shik and Jang Ju Won was a part of. And this time we get introduced to the new members, well, quote unquote not new members, because Min Young-jun tells Jang Ju Won, you know, are you happy being a civil servant and you want to do something more meaningful and fulfilled? Jang Ju Won goes and mulls it over, but he knows that Min Young-jun cannot be trusted, but at the same time he wants to do something meaningful with his powers. So he's there thinking while they're in the nighttime with his wife, they're like sleeping together, of course. She goes and says, whatever you're thinking, don't overthink it, just do it. And she's virtually giving her husband permission to do that. In which the next day, she finds a surprise, her husband's ready to go, like, he's ready to travel. Because the main part in episode 13, apparently the North Koreans managed to go through the border, a submarine got sunk, something along the lines of that, in which Kim Young-jun goes and forms a new team, basically in the National Intelligence Service, the secret group of, let's say, supernaturals or people with enhanced abilities. There was other people with enhanced abilities hidden, but they were already working there. So Min Young-jun goes and gets the other people, in which we can now recognize of the guy of Ching Chon with the extreme powers or strength, and we get the electric guy of Jo Young-suk, Boom Puron, and then of Naju. So we can see the beginnings of this new team, but then again, this new team is not going to last long, because eventually, as when the mission is starting, some things go terribly wrong when they're trying to find the North Koreans, and then we get introduced to the guy with the lizard eyes, who's the principal of the school where all the teenagers are, of Jo Hyuk. He says he hasn't got any extraordinary powers, but more like tracking powers. Like he can be able to find anybody whatsoever, and that kind of makes sense how he was able to find all the kids and the ex-agents. So he goes and tells Jang Ju Won the reason that they're there is North Korea also has superpowered people, so they're meant to find them and prove the existence and to prove the validity of the team of supernatural people. But Jang Ju Won realizes that all the military personnel, like all the average people, that military guys, they gotta be used as a sacrificial lamb. And of course Jang Ju Won got friendly with one of the guys, and he gets angry with the guy with the lizard eyes and starts to run up. And then we do see that North Korea does have powered people, and this powered person is punching these huge ass boulders, just going around and everything, and he manages to survive the attack. But of course the powered person goes off, and Jang Ju Won in that moment is like, okay, I don't really want to continue doing this. But again, he does. He goes in missions with the team, and as the time progresses, his wife of Ji-hee is wanting to get pregnant. And the funny part about this is Ji-hee wants to spend time with her husband, and she wants to tell the news, but each time he's going off the missions, and in particular time where they all have once a month a barbecue as a special occasion, he's going off, and she tells him like, can't you just stay here for that one special day? And he's like, well, we can have this later. And then she goes and confesses to him that she's been trying to get pregnant, but each time it doesn't work out. And then she tearfully says, by all means, which is quite sad, that she kind of assumed it was her fault for living that type of life. The thing about, they never directly say what her occupation, it's just inference, but obvious inference that we know. But then she goes and tells Jang Ju Won she's pregnant. But then again, this is news to him. That's the funny part. He's like, how come you never told me? And so they have that happy reunion, and they have the child of Hae-soo. So as he's going in missions, we can see he's missing time with his wife and his daughter. And as he's coming back from one mission, his phone has died, his mobile phone. He goes and phones, and he gets the terrible news that his wife of Ji-hee and his daughter, the wife died in the car crash that we saw in the previous episodes. And of course the daughter survived because she has her dad's powers. Now this bit I want to concentrate in is like, for some weird reason, like my reaction at first, because Jang Ju Won loved his wife to bits, because that was the only person that understood him. And by nature, Jang Ju Won has such an innocent heart and is very honest with his emotions and almost childlike. He goes and tends to his daughter in the hospital, sees that she's fine, and then when he gets out from the hospital, he starts crying uncontrollably. He's walking down to the funeral parlor in the hospital. He's in the elevator with the other patient, with the doctors there and other people, and he's like, has his face towards the wall, and he's just crying and crying and crying and crying. And as he gets to the funeral parlor, he's still crying, where the woman that works in the funeral parlor hands him a suit, and he's there crying while putting on the suit as the chief mourner. I'm like thinking to myself, is there anybody that can comfort him? In this whole process of him trying to actualize his wife's death, it all seemed very quick. Like he's really having funerals, like getting from McDonald's drive-thru. There was no one to talk to him, no one to say that like it'll be fine. But even though I kind of laughed a little bit, because from this point to that point, for him to be crying and crying and crying, but at the same time it broke my heart. And by the end of the episode, he makes the promise that we saw, I think maybe in the trailers and so on, that he looks into the portrait of his dead wife and he promises that he'll look after their daughter. So that's the end of episode 13. Now I assume in episode 14 we get the story of the other kid, the third one with the glasses, and his backstory with his dad. And from my understanding, from episode 15 to 20 we get the final battle. Anyway, this is the end of the review. You guys let me know what you thought about episode 13, and did it live up to all your expectations? As I leave you always, stay safe. To any new viewers, I really appreciate it if we can hit the subscribe button. Let's keep the channel growing. And as I leave you always, stay safe. Bye.